Hi guys, welcome back. So in this video, I will share my opinion on one EV stock that I think might grow more than NIO in 2021 and the reason why. Okay, now let's begin. So this is a stock that I have had a lot of requests since I opened my channel a few months ago, and I talked about it several times but never had a video dedicated to it because I got caught by so much storm recently. But now I think it's about time that I can share my opinions about this, because I actually think that it can grow more than NIO in 2021. And it is XPEV, ticker symbol XPEV. If you have been following my channel since the beginning, you know that I talked about it at the very early videos. I said that I told you XPEV is one of our clients. We were with them since the very beginning of the company, when they were just 5 of them and working in an apartment somewhere in Guangzhou. If you are interested, I've got lots of stories to share for these years. Watching them grow, it's a very exciting journey. Now, last year it grew a lot at some points and then crashed hard during the market correction for growth stocks. And I remember in January and February, a lot of people asked me about XPEV, and I kept saying you gotta watch out for the lockup period expiring, and a lot of people would sell, like early investors of XPEV can cash out part of their shares, also the team, and it was expiring in early March. So that's why you see that the share price was really at the bottom during that period. And since most of you already know XPEV or already have investment in it, so I will just go straight to the pros and cons. First, let's start with the pros. I've done a lot of videos on NIO, and inside I've explained how the Chinese government would continue the ambition on the Chinese EV being the leaders of the world, and this mission would not change. That's why the government supports on the EV sector, it's very unlikely to stop anytime soon, and here you can already eliminate the possibility of this sector getting any government crackdown or regulation. And second, the company has already a listing in Hong Kong. I know NIO is already in progress also getting listed in Hong Kong, and will probably get it done somewhere within this year, but for now, XPEV has a certainty for a lot of international investors because it already has a second listing in Hong Kong and might potentially get a third listing in the mainland China as well, maybe in the Chinex index. Based on the increasing popularity of XPEV's brand in China, I think getting listed in Hong Kong and mainland would be good for the share price for a lot of retail investors to buy in. Number 3, they have a much smaller market cap compared to NIO, almost half of NIO's market cap, so less money is needed to drive up the share price, easier to pull up by institutions. Number 4, it is strongly backed by Alibaba. Since Alibaba is a very early investor for XPEV, they have also bought more shares of XPEV, even right before the IPO last year in the end of August. And this time in Hong Kong, they also bought more shares there. So it shows how bullish Alibaba is for XPEV since they have insider news. So I think there is a good chance that Alibaba is helping XPEV in terms of the technology and enhancing the moat by incorporating the smart EV into part of the ecosystem of Alibaba, which is a huge ecosystem, because we know that they don't have just e-commerce. Obviously, it covers all of the areas that we can basically think of. And it's not only e-commerce, obviously, but also AliCloud, AliHealth, Gaode, which is the map service they acquire, and now also making share taxi, kind of what Didi is doing, and also smart cities. All of the BAT are working on smart cities for the government. So I think it would be definitely a good bonus to be incorporated in the Alibaba ecosystem. Very big plus to be backed by Alibaba, because both Alibaba and Tencent are the biggest giants in China anyways, and they have the biggest ecosystem built and continue to be expanding as well. Number 5. A lot of the investors were worried that Xiaopeng would get hit hard because of Tesla, as Tesla keep reducing their price, and worry that Xiaopeng's P7 would not sell well. But it's not the case at all. The P7 sedan had been selling pretty well, growing constantly, boosting the sale of the company overall, and also because this year there was a PR crisis for Tesla in China, so they're having a little bit pullback or difficulty in China, and this is where Xiaopeng is aggressively growing with the opportunity open from this. Later on this year, the P5 would be launched, and I think it would not do so bad either. I think it might sell better even than the P7. It is smaller, cheaper, more affordable, and accessible, making more people able to change from the ICE to electric car. More accessible is like the strategy of Tesla and BYD, open to a bigger market. On top of that, their product range would only keep expanding because right now the best-selling car in China is still bigger SUV, which Xiaopeng doesn't have right now. This is why NIO only started with SUV since the beginning and then launched sedan later. And if Xiaopeng can launch a bigger SUV later, it will help boost their sales because a lot of Chinese still prefer bigger SUV. So this is a possibility that can potentially boost the share price as well, because the first model they launched, the G3, is still a small SUV. So that is the expansion of the product range that can help boost the sales and expectation of investors this year. Next is Xiaopeng's technology. They have an early advantage to focus on the autonomous drive technology since a very early stage. So now they have been selling the software quite well. It can contribute to a fair amount of the revenue and would continue to grow. And this part is the high margin business compared to the sales of the vehicles, because Xiaopeng's positioning is lower range. So the margin for the car sales would be much lower than selling software. And because they have the most R&D expense spent on the technology, it would help into the other area, which is the flying car they have been working on. They have the name for this flying car called Huitian. It is owned by Xiaopeng, and later on I think they would grow it into a separate independent company. But in case you wonder, this is different than EH, another company we are investing in, because EH is mainly air taxi. And because they have been investing so much into the autonomous drive, it would help the development of Huitian as well. And number 7, they have already started to sell in Europe, being the very early brands, one of the first few to enter markets outside of China. So that would be a significant milestone, just like NIO. But on top of that, they have a lower price range, so it might be more attractive for the market outside of China. Easier to sell, easier to spread. Number 8, the Hill House effect. As I mentioned before in my Discord, Hill House is a very respected investment fund in China. I would say they are the number 1 influential in China. So in Q1, the last filing they did, I saw that they had built position for both NIO and Xiaopeng and had a bigger position in Xiaopeng than NIO. So I think that would create a lot of attention on Xiaopeng, because many mutual funds would kind of follow what Hill House is doing. Last time we saw that they had emptied their position completely on TAL and EDU in Q1, and we know what happened after that. So it seems like they have quite the advantage of connections and news. So definitely something worthwhile to pay attention to. Okay, now I have finished with the pros. Let's start with the cons. First of all, I have to share my honest opinion about the name Xiaopeng. This is what turns me off since the very beginning. I have expressed the concern of using the founder's name as the brand's name, which is not really a big problem. They're not the first one to do so. A lot of the foreign brands, European brands, do the same thing, but it's just for an electric car to be a new generation of smart EV. I would expect a name to be more young and friendly and more like internet, more new, more energetic. But the name of Xiaopeng feels kind of old-fashioned right now compared to the positioning, which is mostly post-90 or post-85, a much younger demographic. The story was that originally the name was Orange Car, 橙子汽车 at first, but then they had trouble to register this name and later on changed to Xiaopeng. If I have to be very honest, I think Xiaopeng in Chinese is not very young, hard to promote a brand image to be cool and trendy. And for international expansion, Xiaopeng, it's really kind of hard to pronounce. Even XPEV, most people cannot pronounce it well, so it's quite an awkward situation. It was like Huami at first, and then they later on changed their name to be Zepp. Kind of easier for international users to pronounce it, and feels more cool, more trendy, more sporty compared to Huami. NIO is a very good name. Even though it's a made-up word, it sounds like Neo, and it's a word symbolic for a new generation, a replacement of the older trend. Very bold, very cool name, and in Chinese its meaning is blue sky coming. Very meaningful as well. Gives a good story, a good reason to love the brand. Versus Xiaopeng in Chinese is a small bird. Sure, it's a symbolism of small bird growing into a big bird eventually, but still. Either they've got to change the name or they need to spend much more effort and marketing dollar into making the brand name cool. When you have a good name, it's much easier to grow the brand image compared to when you have a okay to bad name. Much more marketing effort and marketing dollar needed to reverse the situation. So this is the biggest con for me when I talk about Xiaopeng. That is the number one thing I complain, it is the name. So I think they definitely need to work harder on that to improve the brand identity. And number two, even though it's a very good thing to be affordable, accessible, targeting the middle class, but at the same time, this is also a very competitive market, a very competitive landscape, facing direct competition with many other players like BYD, very strong competitor, Tesla, Li Auto, Geely, Great Wall, both traditional cars turning into electric, but they have also a lot of resources to do the transition because Geely is partnering with Baidu, so they also have a strong autonomous technology, and also a lot of the international brands like GM, Ford, they're all in this kind of price range, etc. Compared to NIO, which is the first premium brand that is Chinese brand. So the next cons would go to their moat. Is it strong enough, and how long would it last before the competitors catch up? Because they have an advantage in terms of their technology, but how long would it last or protect them from the competitors? Because in comparison, NIO has a strong moat in terms of their BaaS model, working with the battery swap stations, and I think this would build them a strong moat by building an ecosystem. And because this was planned out since the beginning of NIO back in 2014, so that is why it's very unlikely for the competitors to follow in a short time, because it's in the DNA of the brand. Everything needs to change according to this. Something that might take longer for the brand to grow at first, but once they made it work, it would help them build a few years at least of strong protection against competitors. So that is all my reason to support why I think Xiaopeng might grow more than NIO in the year of 2021. But overall, I don't think we need to necessarily compare these two brands because I'm still heavily invested in NIO. For Xiaopeng, I swing traded once in a while, but never have a big position in it. I think it can grow well in the medium term, but in the long term, I still think they need to build a stronger moat and ecosystem in order to continue to build brand loyalty, especially in a very competitive market. So in the long run, I still think my NIO is giving me more certainties. Now that's it for what I want to share about Xiaopeng. So let me know in the comment section down below whether you have invested in it, what's your plan with it, is it for the long term or short term, and whether you plan to start your position in this. Okay, now if you have enjoyed this video, please give me a big like and write me a great comment, and I'll see you in my next video. That's it guys, hope you can find my videos helpful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and give me a big like. Thank you.